Why did Jesus let a blind man sit by the side of the road for so many years before performing the miracle of healing? Why was that man, forgotten by the crowd, finally noticed, but only at that precise moment? There are mysteries in the miracles of Jesus that go far beyond what the eyes can see, and this is one of the deepest. This is not just a story of healing. It's a lesson about how heaven moves when everything on earth seems still. And maybe you're living in that silence too. According to the Gospel of Luke, a blind man was sitting by the roadside in Jericho, begging. He hears the noise of the crowd and asks what's going on. Someone replies, "It's Jesus of Nazareth passing by," and that's when everything changes. But before that moment, how many days, months, years had that man sat there, ignored, invisible, nameless? Why did the Master walk through so many other places before stopping right there in front of him? This blind man, later called Bartimaeus, was not an important person. He wasn't a religious leader or an influential merchant. He was just an ordinary man, without vision and without prospects. But when he heard that Jesus was near, he cried out with all the strength he had, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." People tried to silence him. They tried to quiet his voice as if he wasn't worthy of being heard, and yet he cried out louder. There's a disturbing truth in that cry. Often those who need help the most are the ones with the least space to be heard. Bartimaeus' cry was a silent cry of the soul, a desperation born from years of waiting. He didn't ask for gold or bread or shelter. He asked for mercy, because he knew that when Jesus moves, he doesn't just bring healing, but full restoration. And here's the question that holds us. Why did Jesus allow that time of darkness? Why didn't he heal Bartimaeus earlier on another occasion? The answer may not be simple, but it is powerful. Jesus wanted to reveal more than physical healing. He wanted everyone to see the value of that invisible man. By stopping in the middle of the crowd and calling him forth, Jesus not only healed Bartimaeus, he put him at the center of the scene. The man who was ignored became the example. How many times do we feel the same? On the sidelines, waiting for something to change, unsure if we'll ever be noticed. Maybe you've also asked, does God see me? Does he still care? And I tell you, yes, he sees. But many times, he allows silence to prepare the stage for your transformation. What seems like delay might actually be divine choreography. He knows the right time, and when he passes by, everything changes. The most interesting part is that Jesus didn't go to Bartimaeus. The blind man had to get up, even without being able to see. He was brought to Jesus. This teaches us something very important. Sometimes the miracle requires movement, even when we can't see the path. It's necessary to walk by faith, not by sight. Jesus asked, "What do you want me to do for you?" As if he didn't know. But he did. He just wanted the man to say it aloud, because declaring is an act of faith. That same question Jesus asked is posed to me and you. What do you want me to do for you? Maybe your answer doesn't involve blind eyes but a weary heart. Maybe you need peace, purpose, direction. And like Bartimaeus, maybe you're crying out on the inside with no strength for another day. But today, just like on that road in Jericho, Jesus is passing by. And if he's passing by, it's because he's ready to stop for you too. Jesus didn't just heal Bartimaeus' eyes. He revealed something that had been hidden inside that man, a faith that many with perfect vision never had. The miracle wasn't only about restoring sight, but about confirming what had already been alive in his heart. Sometimes the greatest blessings God releases into our lives are confirmations of what he already saw when everyone else ignored us. It's curious how, after the miracle, Bartimaeus didn't go home. He followed Jesus along the road. This seems like a small detail, but it speaks volumes. He didn't want to just receive a blessing and go back to his life. He wanted to walk with the one who blessed him. That teaches us that a true encounter with Christ changes our direction, changes our plans, and even changes what we thought we needed. Because once we truly see Jesus, everything else fades in comparison. But there's a deeper point we need to consider. Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. It was one of the last times he would pass through that place. If Bartimaeus had remained silent, if he had been too afraid to speak up, perhaps he would never have experienced that miracle. This raises a powerful question. How many blessings have we missed because we were afraid to seem inconvenient? How many cries have we swallowed because someone next to us told us to be quiet? The world will always try to silence your faith. It will call it too much, tell you to wait, say you're being disruptive. But when heaven is passing by, don't stay silent. Shout, cry out, kneel, raise your hands, even if no one understands. Because there are sacred moments, spiritual windows of opportunity, where faith needs to be bold. And the cry that seems like desperation may actually be the very key that unlocks divine intervention. That moment by the roadside was far more than an individual healing. It was a confrontation with a society that preferred the silence of the unseen over their restoration. The crowd saw Bartimaeus as a nuisance. Jesus saw a son. The crowd wanted to move on. Jesus wanted to stop. This reveals a divine pattern. Heaven is never in a hurry when the heart is ready. And perhaps that's the true lesson of this story. Sometimes God allows you to remain in the background, in silence, without immediate answers. Not because He has forgotten you, but because He's waiting for the exact moment when your faith will shine brighter than your sight. The waiting process is painful, but never wasted. God prepares the miracle with details that only make sense later. And you? Have you felt like you're on the sidelines, that others keep going and you're still waiting and waiting? Know this, that road which seems so lonely today could become the place of your greatest testimony. The faith you carry in silence could become a light that impacts many around you. But you must not stop crying out. Maybe you're watching this video at a time of exhaustion, wondering if God really cares. Maybe everything feels dark, just like it did for Bartimaeus. But pay attention to the sounds around you. Sometimes the noise you're hearing isn't confusion. It's Jesus passing by, and if He's passing by, it's time to rise. And if this message is speaking to your heart right now, allow me to ask something special. Subscribe to this channel. But don't do it out of habit. Do it as an act of faith, as if saying, I believe God still sees me, and miracles are on the way. If you felt this message resonated with you, write in the comments, Jesus, I'm here. You can call me too. I want to read your comment and pray for you. Let's build together a community where no one stays on the sidelines, where everyone who cries out has a voice, where we are all heard, just like Bartimaeus was. After the healing, Bartimaeus could have gone back to the same place as before. He could have sat by the roadside again, now with sight, but still tied to the past. But he made a different choice. He chose to follow Jesus. He decided to step onto the road, not as a bystander, but as a traveler. This is the decisive point of faith. What do you do after God answers? This is where many people stop. They receive the blessing, the answer, the miracle, and return to their old lives. But Bartimaeus understood that seeing Jesus was better than just seeing the world. He wanted more than sight. He wanted purpose. And perhaps that's the question Jesus wants you to hear today. Do you just want the blessing, or do you want to walk with me? Because following Jesus goes far beyond the miracle. It's about being transformed by who He is, not just by what He does. This man's story is not just about healed eyes. It's about a restored identity. It's about someone who was ignored for so long, reduced to his condition, the blind man from Jericho. But Jesus gave him back more than sight. He gave him back his name, his worth, his voice. And when that happens, something changes inside us too. We stop defining ourselves by our wounds and begin to see ourselves through God's eyes. Do you know why that's so important? Because today, thousands of people are still sitting by the road, defined by their losses, the abandoned, the widow, the bankrupt, the anxious, the sinner. But Jesus doesn't see you through your pain. He sees what's hidden behind the label. He sees the courage no one noticed, the cry no one heard, the hope that still pulses even when everything else seems dead. He sees your heart, and that's enough. And maybe this road you're on isn't the end, but the beginning. Maybe the cry you've been holding back is the one that will awaken God's movement. Maybe today's exhaustion is just the pause before your breakthrough. Jesus doesn't just change what's outside. He transforms what's inside and invites us to rise and follow, even if we don't yet know where we're going. And if you've made it this far in the video, that's already a sign. Something inside you is longing for more. Something inside you won't settle for staying still, waiting for things to happen. You want to see. And not just with the eyes on your face, but with the eyes of faith. You want to perceive what God is doing even when everything seems dark. And believe me, He is working right now. Your road may seem empty, but Jesus is drawing near. Right now, I want to offer you a special invitation. It's not just to like or comment, it's to join us. This channel was created for people like you, people who want to understand the Word deeply, but also with heart. People who aren't afraid to ask hard questions, who cry, who wait, who believe. Subscribe to the channel today, but do it as someone saying, I want to walk with Jesus. And if you can, share your story with us. What has your road been like? How long have you been waiting? When did you feel that Jesus came near? Or maybe you're still waiting for that moment. Write it in the comments. Tell us, what did you learn from this video? What part touched your heart the most? Here we're not just telling Bible stories, we're living a community of faith, compassion, and transformation. And your voice is part of it. With every testimony in the comments, every silent prayer, every shared tear, the road fills with light. Bartimaeus was remembered because he didn't stay still. He cried out, he got up, he believed. And we can do the same today. No matter how long the darkness has lasted, Jesus still passes by. And when He does, everything can change.